Lots of things to unpack today, guys. I will say if you're looking for something specifically, down below there are timestamps, but we are going to be going through everything pre versus post, essentially how things have changed from season 20 to season 21. Starting with bows. Tyranny of Heaven and its stats have been adjusted. Bungie noted they were always weirdly low, and the stats now show much higher on the new version from Last Wish. Now, aggressive submachine guns. This did go through, guys. They reduced the base damage from 15 to now 14. Also increased precision hit multiplier from 1.45 to 1.5. Its crit damage going from 21.8 to 21. They also reduced Immortal's range by 10. Now the crit damage shows 22 per crit and 15 per body. Now keep in mind, Bungie's rounding system is just really weird. Despite it being 21, it could still round up to 22. Regardless though, this still seems like it pushed on through, and the range nerf did hit Immortal, as it is showing 10 less, and D2 Foundry is showing a max range of 80, capping out at 22.84 meters. And keep in mind, guys, that is with an adept range mod. Kind of gives you an idea though of where Immortal sits. Granted, it still has target lock, it's still deadly, and we're going to be breaking down aggressive submachine guns very soon here. Now, sniper rifles. Bungie increased PvE damage by 10%. Now, Izanagi's Burden did not make the cut with Hone Edge, but its base form does have that 10% buff. Now, when we look at the pre-numbers here, we saw that this buff went through pretty much across the board, dead even with that 10% buff, and that includes Clown Strike, Whisper of the Worm, everything saw that 10% buff. And I know a lot of you are probably like, Cross, duh, Bungie literally said it's a 10% buff. We still want to check everything. Like, we want to make sure, okay, did Whispered Breathing also get that 10% buff? It did. And we want to make sure that this is the case for all these sniper rifles, as if it's not, we can call it out. Now, scout rifles. Bungie had mentioned that Long Guard was inadvertently receiving the damage bonus versus miners for exotics, and this has finally been addressed. But it did receive a 10% buff from season 20 mid-season patch for scout rifles. Now, pre-damage values against ads was actually 13,296 damage per crit and 8,982 per body. Post numbers are 9,497 per crit and 6,416 per body. Now, this is quite a nerf, but keep in mind, it wasn't supposed to be getting that buff versus miners anyways. Now, the 10% buff that was given out here was again a mid-season patch for season 20, but that did not apply to enemies like Coral, Majors, Bosses, etc. Hence why the damage values were the same. And with that being said, let's start hitting the exotics. And big changes here, guys. Eyes of Tomorrow. Killing 4 targets with a missile volley will refund 1 ammo. Now, it actually does refund 1 ammo, but unfortunately it refunds it back to your reserves. Still great. It would have been nice if it refunded it and auto reloaded the rocket to then start DPS right away. However, I can hardly complain considering the fact that it's literally refunding us ammo. And keep in mind, guys, that increases the damage of that next volley. A very good change. Now, Graviton Lance. They actually increased the RPM of this weapon from 257 to 300 and reduced the burst delay by 20%, essentially matching that of Revision Zero and its 2-round burst mode. They also changed up the numbers here inside of PvP, having more of a 40-60% split. In our pre-numbers, we can actually show you how this splits up. Inside of PvE, against Coral, it was doing 1,468 per crit and 887 per body. And his second shot, look how much more damage it used to do. 5,505 per crit and 3,323 per body. Post values though, the number of the first shot edged up a little more at 1,883 per crit and 1,136 per body, with the second shot being 2,541 per crit and 1,534 per body. Now you probably see this and you're starting to become alarmed. We are too. I don't know what's going on here, guys. Again, Bungie made the change to Graviton Lance, and I guess because they increased the rate of fire, that's what's dropping the damage down so significantly inside of PvE. I know most of us looked at this as mainly a change for PvP, but no, this is affecting a lot of things inside of PvE, netting us about 3,000 less damage against miners, and against majors, around 2,500 less damage. So a significant drop there in damage. Keep in mind though, Bungie's gonna say their answer to this is essentially, hey, we increase the rate of fire, so the DPS levels out. Now inside of PvP, this has been a very positive change. Yes, it can still get the kill in a 3 bursts, but you can do so faster. And we're actually gonna be reviewing Graviton Lance here this week, but Graviton is back in the meta. Listen to what I'm saying, guys. It is back in the meta. And despite what certain websites may say, its range is actually much further than what's being listed. It doesn't start to experience damage fall off until about 39 meters. And I truly believe in mid mid-range maps and even far-range maps, Graviton Lance is going to be a force to be reckoned with now. Now, Jade Rabbit. Bungie added a buff text to show when Fate of All Fools increased body shot damage is active, and quickly hitting 3 critical hits now refunds 3 shots instead of 1. Post-testing, changes are confirmed. Text pops up for Fate of All Fools and will now return 3 shots on hitting 3 crits. Manticore. Increase the catalyst damage resistance from tier 3 to now tier 4. Also increase movement speed during hang time, and activating the catalyst perk through an airborne kill or sustained damage following an airborne kill now partially refills the magazine. Now post, everything tested here and confirmed, and we were definitely able to tank more damage here against Carl with that resist times 4. Granted, at the same time, you're airborne. I still don't recommend it in GM or master content, but hey, if you want to be airborne, go right ahead, man. Lumina. Increased noble rounds cap from 5 to 6. Post testing, that is exactly right. But not only that, you now have a custom hipfire reticle that shows you how many noble rounds you have, which is a beautiful change, Bungie. Heartshadow. Damage increase now activates quicker while invisible after 0.25 seconds instead of 1 second. Also, Heartshadow now weakens upon dealing any damage while the damage increase is active. So post testing here, change is confirmed. Damage increase happens really fast, like pretty much right here outside of your dodge animation, it's active. Now light attacks also weaken instead of just the heavy attack when damage increase is active. Now Worldline Zero. The sprinting heavy attack can now be chained into itself once. Sword guard energy costs from each sprinting heavy attack reduced from 100% to now 50%, and they also increase damage from an individual sprinting heavy attack by 8.3%. Now the post testing here, Worldline feels good, guys. Chaining sprinting heavy into itself is fairly easy to do. It's got some quick timing, but easy to pull off. And for my speedrunners, you'll feel right at home. Now, Sword Guard Energy Reduce is also fantastic, as it's way quicker to get that sprinting heavy attack charge up again. Keep in mind, guys, we also have Arc Surge this season. I'm not saying we're going to be in a Worldline Zero meta, but for my speedrunners, I think you're going to see them taking advantage of the sword yet again. Now, Sweet Business. Now fires explosive rounds every 20 shots and fewer shots while fully spun up. Now, pre-damage values pretty much match post, but keep in mind, we have some explosive damage that's thrown in here, which is roughly a little more than 3,700 more damage against ads, and against Carl, almost 2,000 more extra damage. Now keep in mind, guys, it now fires that explosive round every 20 shots, but fewer shots when fully spun up. That means when this auto rifle is fully amped, which by the way is at 900 rounds per minute. I know it starts up as a 360, but it fully amps to 900. We're actually able to see that explosive round roughly around every 8 shots. Now granted, guys, there's a lot happening here, but every 8 shots, no matter what, whether it's a crit or a body shot, you're seeing that damage. Now, Legend of Acrius. Increased total ammo from 12 to 16. Also increased maximum projectile distance from 9 meters to 12 meters. Now, post-testing here, Acrius feels pretty good. On top of that, considering we're in an Arc Surge environment, now may actually be the time to break out Acrius. That 3 meters of extra range may not seem like a lot, but for this shotgun to reach in that 12-meter territory, that can actually keep you a lot safer from stomp attacks. Also, the ammo increase makes it even better. Now, we're not going to reveal too much here soon, guys, but no backup plans is straight juice this season. Combine that with Legend of Acrius, fellas, we've got a build to make very soon. Now, Tommy's Matchbook. The catalyst was actually updated here, where it states that while overheated, sustained fire scorches your target, and every 5 shots, it applies 14 plus 7 with Embers of Ashes fragment scorch stacks. Now, previously, there was no scorch or ignitions, just extra damage while overheated. But post, you actually see the scorch stacks can cause ignitions with roughly an extra 17,000 damage versus Carl. On top of that, solar ignitions can stun unstoppable champions. It clears out large groups of ads. It synergizes with Solar 3.0. Tommy was the first thing we used right after the new season launch. We rolled up in there with Actium War Rig and our build, relying on healing from our subclass, and it was popping off. Just remember, guys, always shoot Tommy from the hip. Now, with it applying Scorch now and ignitions, Tommy's Matchbook is also dipping into Sol Invictus and proccing, that's right, sunspots, which makes it even nastier because you can dip it in those sunspots and gain restoration. Again, we'll link our build video to Tommy down below, but it is so good right now. Next up, we have No Time to Explain. Now, they updated the drone to work with anti-barrier, as the drone will now break barrier champion shields and over-penetrate combatant shields. They also updated the drone to work with Feeding Frenzy. Now, post-testing, the drone does in fact work with Feeding Frenzy, but the drone does not pop barrier barrier shields. Now, keep in mind, guys, that's because we don't have anti-barrier for pulse rifles right now. I'm only bringing this up because there were some people thinking it was going to have like intrinsic anti-barrier, but that's not the case. When we do have anti-barrier pulse rifle again, though, it will work with the drone. Interestingly, though, when doing some of our testing, one thing we did notice was that when we had a drone up and then kept landing crits on top of that, the barrier champion would just not pop his barrier shield, which is kind of bizarre. Regardless, though, guys, the drone will work with anti-barrier, but only if we're actually applying things that can counter barriers on barrier champions, whether that's Radiant or just having pulse rifle anti-barrier. Now, Skyburner's Oath. Bungie increased Scorch stacks from 3 to 5 and 5 to 10 with Ember of Ashes fragments. Now, you needed Ember of Ashes to cause an ignition, but you would need to land all 20 shots to do so. You don't even need Ember of Ashes to cause an ignition now, but it'll still take you 20 shots. However, if you do use Ember of Ashes, you really only need to land 10 shots in the mag to cause enough Scorch to ignite a target. Now, a big reason for this is Bungie actually added some forgiveness in the sandbox when it comes to Scorch, but regardless though, Skyburners causing more ignitions more often is very good. And that ignition damage versus Carl is 46,989 damage. Hot! Now, Salvation's Grip. Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, we have to come back and test this. There's a lot going on here. Bungie reworked it to have 2 firing modes, and the charge shot creates a pattern of stasis crystals, where the number of crystals is no longer dependent on charge time. Now, the uncharged shot is a normal grenade launcher shot, which does more damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. They also added a new perk that reloads the magazine from reserves when you quickly shatter at least 3 crystals with the uncharged shot. Again, guys, we're gonna circle back around to Salvation's Grip at some point. It's really interesting to just see it at work. What I really want to do with Salvation's Grip is see how it pairs with certain stasis builds. Next, we have Bad Juju. Fix an issue that was causing the weapon to recoil like an auto rifle, making it harder to control. And the recoil pattern will now be similar to other pulse rifles. Guys, that is the pre-testing you see there. Now look at it in its post-testing form. The recoil is now more compact and less vertical, overall showcasing that yes, Bad Juju is much more manageable, which is crazy considering this whole time when I was using Bad Juju, I was just like, man, maybe I'm just bad at aiming. Now, Fighting Line. Damage against red bars spiked to massive levels due to a recent bug, and Bungie addressed this. But note, it still receives the 40% damage bonus for exotic primary weapons. Now, pre-damage, a direct impact would be 35,142, with explosion damage of 187,757. Now, we were hitting easy 200Ks when we were using Fighting Lion. It was very nice. However, guys, it's a sad day. Direct impact damage, 8,033 now, with explosion damage of 46,389. Keep in mind, this is just against red bars, but still, it is a hefty nerf. And considering we had that strike boss from last season that was coded as a red bar, we were literally lighting him up with Fighting Line. No more though. Thunderload. Bungie fixed an issue resulting in its hits against a Divinity bubble counting as 2 crits instead of 1. Now, we did pre-numbered damage against Greg with Divinity, and it was giving us 1,765,973 damage. Post damage against Greg with Divinity, 1,463,277. Pain? The reality was, guys, it was spawning in more lightning strikes than it was supposed to. And it was because its trait, Lightning Round, state that continuous damage generates stunning lightning strikes. And considering it was double dipping with Divinity, Bungie fixed that. So yes, this is a nerf to Thunderlord, and a pretty hefty one at that. Now, Winterbites. Bungie removed the impact damage and redistributed it to its detonation damage. The self-damage scaling was also tuned to account for the increased damage of the detonation. Now, pre-damage values. Against ads, it was 37,142 with a detonation damage of 64,037. Damage against Carl was 24,761, that being impact, with a detonation damage of 42,691. Now, post damage. Against ads, again, just one damage value, 97,336, and against Carl, 64,891. Now, keep in mind, guys, the goal of this change was so that we wouldn't just suddenly delete boss's health, which shouldn't be the case anymore, but you never know. Winterbite is essentially becoming the next Celesta. I will say this though, the damage values are slightly less than what it was previously, about 3,000, both against minors as well as majors. And as far as self-damage goes, it's kind of hard to tell because you could actually kill yourself pretty easily before, but now it seems like it can kill you even easier, so be careful. Which takes us to the juicy part of today's video, exotic armor. Lots of big changes here, guys. We're gonna be diving in, and some of these we're actually gonna be dragging into builds to individually review, but this will give us an overview of everything that changed, starting with Sealed Ahamkara's Grass. Now the exotic will now reload the magazine of all your weapons when you defeat a target with your powered melee. And for 5 seconds after dealing melee damage, you gain increased movement speed and jump height. Now the confirmed changes went through, guys. He was reloading all weapons, and the increased movement speed and jump height felt pretty similar to Stompy's. Keep in mind though, this buff only lasts for 5 seconds though. Arthur's Embrace. Gain additional strength while the exotic weighted knife damage bonus is active. Now, it does give increased strength, but to be honest with you guys, not a huge difference here. Personally, we found it barely noticeable. Oathkeeper. This one is juice. This is the exotic that all my hunter mains need to be trying this season. When fully drawn, bows gain a bonus to damage against combatants that increases as you hold the draw, but deactivates after a few seconds. Now again, Oathkeeper still maintains its previous benefits of holding a full draw indefinitely. It also has a slight increase in draw speed. Where the benefit is now is in the tiers of damage, which are substantial. Oath Tier 1 grants you a 38% increase in damage. Tier 2, 75%. Tier 3, 112%, with Tier 4 at 150%. Guys, that is nuts. We tested this with bows like this arc bow right here, Lumina, Wishender. These damage values are substantially increasing across the board. Yes, we are definitely doing an Oathkeeper build very, very soon. All I can tell you right now, guys, Wishender, Lumina, or really any exotic bow out there, or even your base legendary bows, give it a go, as Oathkeepers are now S tier. Now for my PvP people, don't worry, there is no damage increase in PvP. We tested this with Lumina, Wishender, even a legendary precision bow. I think some of us were concerned that the changes here to Lumina would just be overlapped with this buff to Oathkeepers, but no need to worry, as this buff only applies to PvE. Now Raiju's Harness. When deactivating your Arc Staff super, you create a blinding explosion that temporarily increases your arc weapon damage. However, blocking with Whirlwind Guard will no longer consume energy more slowly. Now the post-testing here, the arc blinding explosion does of course blind targets. However, keep in mind, it doesn't do any damage. The arc damage buff also lasts for 20 seconds. Now it does not stack with Surge, even though in the blog post, it was not mentioned that it was not going to stack with Surge. Now the damage is that tier 4, so it does make sense that Bungie didn't want this to stack. It's a 25% increase in damage, both against minors, majors, all of the above. Now we did test this in PvP as well with Brigand's Law, and this is a 6% damage bonus. Keep in mind though, rounding is weird, but 6% sounds about right. Regardless though, the way Raiju's Harness is going to work, guys, pop your super, deactivate, conserve your super, and then have a 25% increase in damage. You'd imagine doing something like this with Anarchy, it could be very nice. Now Radiant Dance Machines. Kills while your free dodge is active. Extends the duration of free dodging. No longer deactivates when you get too far away from enemies. It also deactivates after using Suspending Slam. Now confirmed here, getting kills will extend your free dodge. As long as you keep getting kills before the timer ends, you can get infinite dodges, which also means infinite orbs with Reaper class mods. We also confirmed that Suspending Slam deactivates this. Now Stompies. Removed airborne effectiveness penalties. You only gain increased speed, slide distance, and improved jumping while your dodge energy is full. Now post-testing here. The minus 50 AE was removed, and you actually see on the side where AE sits and that it matches our weapon. Now sure enough, when you dodge, you lose that extra sprint, that slide and jump benefit that Stompy gives, and doesn't come back until that dodge is returned. I know a lot of my Stompy users are like, Cross, this sucks! At the same time though, man, I hated that minus 50 AE. Now Mask of Bakris. Lots to talk about here, guys. This was changed to use a tier 4 non-stacking weapon damage bonus, which behaves the same as a non-stacking damage bonus provided by Surge mods. Now the damage bonus increase in PvE went from 10% to 25% and will now grant a 6% bonus in weapon damage in PvP. No longer stacks with Surge mods though, but of course provides a larger bonus than what can be achieved with 3 Surge mods. Now confirmed here inside of PvE, yes, it is a 25% buff in damage, and the description now says your stasis and arc weapons deal increased damage. So yes, confirmed here, guys, both your stasis and arc weapons do get that 25% damage buff. Now inside of PvP, it is a 6% bonus, and again applied to both arc and stasis weapons. We tested this with Brigand's Law, Sununa. I know there's some rounding of numbers here, but roughly 6% is what we're looking at for both of those weapon types. And simply dodging will grant you that tier 4 damage bonus. Now keep in mind, guys, you don't have to do what you used to have to do, which is dodge and then apply slow. Simply just dodging will grant you that 25% increase in damage. Now point contact can embrace. Lightning strikes now jolt targets. Increase PvE damage per lightning bolt from 50 to 200, and being amplified now increases the damage of the lightning strikes by 50% instead of extending their range. Guys, I can't believe what I'm actually going to say right now. Point contact cannon brace is nasty. The lightning strikes do 11,392 damage regular and 17,087 while amplified. And considering how easy it is to get amplified, you're pretty much always walking around with that increase in damage. Like just having knockout on and proccing your melee would result in you becoming amplified. And this exotic is an ad clearing machine. On top of that, we have a number of artifact mods this season that increases the benefits of being amplified. Believe me, fellas, a build will be coming from us very soon. Now, no backup plans. Now, Bungie did a complete rework here, replacing the old functionality entirely. Now it provides a moderate benefit to AE and reload speed for shotguns. But while you have an overshield, shotguns deal additional damage and shotgun final blows refreshes your overshield. Now, while using a void subclass, rapid shotgun final blows or defeating a powerful enemy with a shotgun grants you a void overshield and kicks off your health regeneration. Post testing here, guys, confirm void overshield gives you a damage bonus. Now that damage bonus is 35% in PvE. 35%! And you can actually stack this with surge mods, amping it up 65%. This, of course, was tested with Matador, but this right here, guys, is going to be substantial for exotic shotguns like Conditional Finality and Legend of Acrius. So much to go over here. Yes, we will be putting out a build on this. As for PvP, the buff does not seem to be as much. It did increase our Matador damage though per pellet from 19 to around 20, maybe 21. Again, numbers are really weird. I would be surprised if it's actually that 10% buff or not. And we're going to retest this with things like Chaperone, trying to narrow down like where we are sitting with that percentage buff. But regardless though, whether it's 5, 6% or 10%, shotguns really didn't need that much help inside of PvP. And considering how easy it is to proc, no backup plans, I think my ape shotgun users out there are definitely going to be using it. Next we have Second Chance. Shield throw melee now weakens enemies, and stunning a barrier champion with your shield throw grants a single full melee charge. Now post testing here, confirmed. The shield throw does of course weaken now, and stunning barrier champions does grant a single full melee charge. Low-key, guys, Second Chance is a very good exotic. I know some people are like, Cross, why not just use a weapon for barrier champions? Well, again, you're applying weaken, and keep in mind you're able to apply weaken to multiple enemies. It's not just tied to just barrier champions here. Now Stronghold. Replace the healing from blocking shots precisely with a significant damage reduction. 50% in PvE and 10% in PvP while blocking with a sword. Now when you stop blocking, you gain restoration times 2 with a duration that increases based on the number of shots that you've blocked. Now in our post testing, this works a bit different than originally described in the blog posts. Blocking shots grants resist times 4, and to get restoration times 2, you need to rapidly damage targets after blocking shots with your sword. Whereas in the blog post, it just said you just needed to stop blocking. Now it also said that restoration length is determined by the number of shots blocked, but even at 100 stacks, it only lasts for 3 seconds. Now it can be refreshed by getting more kills, but that is where Stronghold currently sits for us. There's already been videos put out of like Stronghold being busted though. I'm mainly just explaining its current functionality. And considering we have a sword rework on the horizon, Strongholds are about to be a Titan's best friend. Now Eternal Warrior. Rapid takedowns with an arc weapon grant an escalating bonus to arc weapon damage, using the same non-stacking damage bonus used by Surge mods. Now this can go all the way up to tier 4 damage bonus, granting a damage bonus of 25% in PvE and 6% in PvP, providing that larger bonus even more than 3 Surge mods. Now while at the tier 4 damage bonus, arc kills refreshes the bonus's duration, and after your Fist of Havoc super ends, you gain the tier 4 damage bonus. Now in our testing here, confirmed, after Fist of Havoc ends, it grants you that tier 4 arc damage boost, which is 25%. Now the tiers here are tier 1, 11%, tier 2, 17%, tier 3, 22%, and then tier 4 at 25%. Also, like Bungie mentioned, it does not stack with Surge mods. Now every 2 arc kills grants the next tier, and further arc kills will extend the timer of the damage buff. Now inside of PvP, we tested this with Ikelos, and it's a 6% bump there in damage, and you still need to get 2 arc kills to get to the next tier. TLDR, fellas, use Wrist Runner with Eternal Warrior. Now Khepri's Horn. The solar damage wave now scorches targets. Post testing, confirm, it does scorch targets. Now I know the question that came up, can it get an ignition with the likes of Ember of Ashes? No. You're gonna need to help it, guys, whether you're popping off an ability, using Skyburners, but no, a single wave, even with Ember of of Ashes won't grant you that ignition. Now next we have Path of Burning Steps. Change to use the non-stacking weapon damage bonus used by Surge mods. This can go all the way up to tier 4 damage bonus, granting a damage bonus of 25% inside of PvE and a 6% bonus in PvP, providing a larger bonus than what can be achieved with 3 Surge mods equipped. Now while at the tier 4 damage bonus, solo kills refresh the bonus's duration, and becoming encased immediately grants you the tier 4 damage bonus. Now in our post testing, again just like above with Eternal Warrior, tier 1 11%, tier 2 17%, tier 3 22%, and tier 4 25%. Again, does not stack with Surge mods, and similar to Eternal Warrior, every 2 solar kills will grant the next tier, with further solar kills extending the timer of that damage buff. Now PvP, we tested this with a solar 140 round per minute hand cannon, and that 6% damage increase was applying here. And again, it's not going to move the needle all that much, but similar to PvE guys, you need 2 solar kills to get to the next tier. Now I know a lot of you are saying, Cross, this looks like a nerf to Path of Burning Steps. You are absolutely right. It is a nerf. As previously, we would actually get up to 25% at just 2 stacks. 3 stacks, we would get up to 35%, and 4 stacks at 40%. So this is a hefty nerf. And on top of that, it doesn't stack with Surge mods. And as someone who has made so many builds with this exotic, it hurts to see this. Now Dunemarchers. Reduce the range of the chain damage from 20 meters to now 12 meters, and PvP damage from 85 to 50. Now, confirmed changes here, guys. Yes, chain damage now down to 12 meters. The damage in PvP, we did somewhere around 51 damage. Granted, some rounding there. Regardless though, when that Titan comes flying into the room and lands that melee hit, it should be less likely for you to get hit with that chain damage. Now, Vesper of Radius. Your rifts emit an arc shockwave every 5 seconds that deals 200 damage in PvE and 70 damage in PvP. Now, enemies defeated by these shockwaves explode for an additional 100 damage. And if you have an arc subclass equipped, also blinds nearby enemies. Now, I do want to point out, we have no idea where Bungie got 200 damage from. Like, perhaps they mean 200% damage, but the arc shockwaves were doing 22,769 damage every 5 seconds to nearby targets. That's nasty. And yes, confirmed, it does blind nearby targets. Now, outside of PvP, we do see that 70 damage every 5 seconds from shockwave. But I do want to point out that Vesper inside of PvE is where it's going to be shining the most. Now, Chromatic Fire. Increase the radius and damage of the explosion created by precision kinetic takedowns. The explosion also applies a status effect to the targets damaged by it, that being blind for arc, scorch for solar, slow for stasis, sever for strand, and weaken for void. Now, confirmed kinetic takedowns cause explosions, and yes guys, you see these status effects based on your subclass. I love that it's actually dipping into the verbs here and not just changing the colors. Now, the radius and damage of the explosion has also been increased. I know nobody was really going out of their way to use Chromatic Fire previously, but considering how many great kinetic weapons we have, Chromatic could really be a monster for you. Now, Dawn Chorus. Daybreak projectiles damage bonus has been increased and no longer is reliant on the enemy being scorched. In our post testing here, confirmed damage bonus is increased and no longer reliant on enemies being scorched. Now, Sanguine Alchemy. Standing in a rift grants a non-stacking bonus to weapon damage, matching your subclass damage type. Now, this damage bonus is the equivalent of 2 Surge leg mods, 17% in PvE and 4.5% in PvP. Now, in our post testing, we did confirm that the damage bonus does not stack with Surge mods, that damage bonus being 17% in PvE while in your rift, and a weapon matching your subclass type. Now, Claws of Ahamkara. Power melee kills create an orb of power. Now, when heavy-handed mods are equipped, this increases the potency of orbs spawn. Keep in mind though guys, no more than 1 orb can be spawned per enemy takedown. Now, in our post testing, confirmed power melee kills do create an orb of power, with heavy-handed mods increasing that potency. Now, Mantle of Battle Harmony. Weapon bonus damage has been changed to that tier 4 when super is fully charged, increasing damage bonus in PvE from 20% to now 25%, and reducing the damage bonus from 15% to now 6% in PvP. No longer stacks with Surge leg armor mods, but provides a larger bonus than what can be achieved with 3 such mods. Now, the damage bonus only applies to weapons that match your subclass damage type, and now stacks with Empowering Rift, as well as other similar damage bonuses. They also extended the base duration of this bonus from 6 seconds to now 10 seconds in PvE, and 3 seconds to 5 seconds in PvP. Now, in our testing, we did see that tier 4 damage bonus to weapon type matching your subclass, that being that 25% bonus in PvE, with the bonus lasting 10 seconds. It does stack with Empowering Rift, which is great because it's going to stack with other Radiant ingredient buffs. Now, inside of PvP, this is a 6% buff. Keep in mind, Bungie's numbers are weird and it's rounding, but yes, roughly 6% here. Now, Ophidian Aspect removed the extended melee range. What a beautiful nerf here. Look, I know I've got some Warlock mains right now that are cursing me, but anything past 5 meters will not lunge forward. Now, Promethium Spur. This now grants Rift energy for any solar weapon takedown, with more energy granted for solar weapon takedowns while standing in a rift. Also, you now have to be standing in a rift when you get a final blow for the exotic to consume your class ability energy and create a rift at the target's location. So confirmed there, guys, solar weapon kills do grant more rift energy when standing in a rift. Personally, though, we found that this change kind of made this exotic worse than before, considering you need to be standing in your rift already, then get enough kills to get your rift back for it to be consumed and then created at the enemy's location. Even at Grass, there were times we just didn't get enough kills in time to get the rift back before the one we were in even expired. So again, no one was really going out of their way to use Promethium Spur. It's just in our testing, it's kind of worse, guys. As crazy as that sounds. Now, Starfire Protocol reduced the amounts of energy gained per instance of damage from 20% to now 2.5%. Empowered weapon kills now grant 20% grenade energy. Now keep in mind there, that is empowered weapon kills. Now in our post testing, the energy per instance of damage is down to 2.5% and it is definitely noticeable. This is a huge nerf, but you are able to get your grenades back with that 20% bump with every empowered weapon kill. Considering where its ease of use originally was, and that's essentially what Starfire Protocol was offering, was just ease of use. I do believe you could still make a play with it, but in this sandbox, Verity's Brow has pretty much replaced Starfire Protocol. But hey, you got a new sexy ornament, right? So guys, that is all of our pre and post testing, mainly hitting the exotics and our weapons. We are going to be doing live testings for the supers, as there were changes to the supers and they were significant changes which could alter which supers you bring into damage phases. So be looking for that very soon. By the way, if you enjoy these videos, there's a lot of work that go into them. I mean, a ton. A like is very much appreciated. Big shout out to the team for crunching this one out, as it was a thick one. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.